Welcome to the fifth episode of Minor League Maineiacs. It's a really boring week, so there's not much to talk about. So we're just going to talk about stuff for a really long period of time. The NFL draft took place over the weekend / Thursday. The Patriots drafted Malcolm Brown, defensive tackle out of Texas, with their 32nd pick. What a steal, like usual, typical Belichick. The Giants took Eric Flowers, the offensive tackle from Miami, with their 9th pick, which I would just like to say I predicted, and we have proof of it. I would just like to put that out there. And the Jets somehow were lucky enough to have Leonard Williams, the defensive end from USC, who many believe was the best player in the draft, fall to them at 6th overall. How does it happen? No one knows. It's just the football gods taking pity on the Jets. And Ryan's not here, so we're going to pick on them the entire time. Floyd Mayweather beat Manny-Pac in a unanimous decision Saturday night in the most talked about fight in a long time, and also the most boring fight in the history of boxing. And the Red Sox were swept over the weekend by the Yankees. The Red Sox have lost their last 4 games in a row and are now last in the AL East, while the Yankees are atop the division with a 16. Yes, exactly. I don't know why it got. Well, it is Cinco de Mayo, so the whole Mexican part of that was pretty good. While the Yankees are atop the division with a 16-10 record. Wow, that must be really good. Oh wait, they're still only 2 games ahead. Who cares? And what else happened? The second round of the NFL playoffs are underway. I mean, Boston's not in it, so it's not like it's actually a playoff. But Tampa Bay's up 2-0 on the Habs, and the Caps are up 2-1 on the Rangers. So that's what's going on. Once again, not very much. But since the NFL is the king of everything, we'll start.
Uh-oh, we lost him. What's up, Greg?
Hey. Do you want to talk about Hardy? Do you want to talk about the Giants?
Yeah, sure. I'll go with the Giants. So I was a little disappointed when Scherf went to the Redskins instead of lasting to us, but I was kind of worried about that happening anyway. Not just with the Redskins, but with a couple other teams. Flowers, I really like. I think he can play. I think his best perk is that he can play any spot on the line, barring center. Where Scherf probably wouldn't have been a left tackle, at best a right tackle. He probably upgrades the run game a little bit more immediately than Flowers would, but I think Flowers is a good, solid lineman, and I'm really happy with that pick. What I'm most happy about was that trade up in the second round, though. Trading up to the first pick of the second round and land Landon Collins. I mean, those 2 picks alone already blew my mind out of the water with that draft. They killed it. I loved it. That's exactly what we needed. I would have borderline wanted. I would have been happy if the Giants took Landon Collins at 9. That's how I would have thought it was a little bit of a reach, but I would have been happy with it, just to explain how happy I am that we were able to get him in the second. And we only gave up a 4th-round pick, and with the 3rd-round pick that we still had, we managed to get a defensive end, God damn it! I was working on remembering how to say his name, but it's Obajuwaz, fuck it, whatever. Well, you know who I'm talking about anyway. And he's a typical Giants defensive end that Reese has loved to draft recently. Solid against the run. Pass rush could use a little bit of work, but he's got the potential. It just needs a little bit of coaching. So I thought that was a solid pick. That was another pick where in the second round I would have been happy going into day 2. I would have been happy if we ended up with him on their 2nd-round pick anyway. And so we still got him in the 3rd round while managing to trade up and get Landon Collins. I don't even care. People talk about how the Giants draft wasn't that great because the later rounds were so-so and they kind of reached for a couple guys, including a safety in the 5th round. But honestly, I don't care about that. I mean, after the 5th round, we didn't have a 4th-round pick. That's what we used to get Landon Collins. And after that 4th round, it's pretty much just a crapshoot. You're really going to tell me that you can tell the difference between a 5th-round pick and a guy who didn't go drafted? For the most part, that doesn't bother me. So I think the Giants totally crushed it with this draft. I absolutely love what they did.
Yeah, I thought it was I had them getting Flowers anyway. I think that, like I've said on multiple occasions, I think that's going to completely solidify an entire side of their line, which is obviously going to help their run game and help Eli. And then I had Landon Collins in my mock draft going in the 1st round, and they take him. They move up and take him. So I thought when they did that, I was like, wow, they're really going for it. And then I also had Owamgbe Ogadizua. I had him going in the first round also, and then when I saw they got him in the third round, I was like, holy shit, like this is crazy.
Yeah, we killed it. That's basically the way I looked at this draft. Is we ended up with two first rounds and a second round pick, and with our three first picks, we ended up with two first rounders and a second rounder. And I mean seriously, I'm on record saying that I love this draft. I really have high hopes that we can. Dallas will have a down year. Philly, I think, is having a down year. Redskins still suck, and I think the Giants have a chance to compete in the division this year, given the draft that we just had.
Yeah, I think they definitely made a huge move. I mean, you had the Redskins didn't really make crazy moves. Chip Kelly didn't make any of the crazy moves people thought he was going to make. And then Jerry Jones didn't take a running back the entire draft because he wants to try to prove that his Darren McFadden's going to be the next, the second coming of one of the greatest running backs, like Emmitt Smith or something. So, yeah,
Power to him.
I think the Giants definitely made close the gap and definitely probably passed some teams too. So in that draft.
That's what I'm hoping.
So let's see the Patriots draft. Malcolm Brown in the first round, 32nd overall, I think was a steal. I was hoping that they would move up with like Cleveland's second pick, the like low, 23, I think, or somewhere around there in the 20s, the low 20s. I was hoping they'd move up there and get Malcolm Brown, and I was like, oh, that's a pipe dream. They're not going to trade up for someone like that. And then he kept falling and kept falling and kept falling. And then I remember the Patriots were up to pick, and then so I'm on Twitter looking things up and everything, and then just comes across the screen that one of the Boston Globe reporters reported that they were trading out of that pick, and I was like, I stayed up all night. Like, I prepared myself. I thought this was going to happen. But I was still like, what the hell? Like, I'm so tired right now. And now they're not even going to take anybody. And then they were still sitting there, and all of a sudden it just started coming across the screen one after the other. The Patriots picked Malcolm Brown. And I was just, like, completely ecstatic. And, I mean, he was one of the guys that I loved coming into the draft just because he's literally, like, he's the reincarnation of Wilfork. Like, exactly like him. He's already married. He already has 2 kids, just like Will Fork was when he was young, the mature Will Fork.
The important football stats.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and
Hey, man, on the Patriots, that shit counts.
Yeah, he was a captain of the team. He's a solid run blocker. Like his run game is just going to translate immediately into the NFL, and he's going to demand double teams. Maybe not his rookie year, but eventually he's going to demand double teams, which is going to free up the defensive ends. So, I mean, that's just a pick that usually, as a Patriots fan, you're not overly excited in the first round. But
half the time they don't even pick in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. But lately, it's actually been with Dante Hightower and Chandler Jones and Malcolm Brown. It's actually been some solid picks.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's Belichick. So the fact that he's drafting defensive linemen and linebackers really well in the first round probably shouldn't surprise anyone, since that's basically his wheelhouse. So
well, it's funny because for the longest time he got shit for having bad drafts and drafting a bunch of busts. But I mean, really, if you look at his percentage, it's better, or at least the same, if not better, than most of the other teams.
Well, I think the biggest thing too is
to evaluate.
Right. In the first round, he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. Maroney was the biggest one, but
right.
He'll make mistakes in the second and third round that'll leave your head scratching. But in the first round, he's been pretty spot on. Which, speaking of the second round, the Patriots picked Jordan Richards, which was a complete reach since he was supposed to go in the fourth round. He's basically a soft cornerback / safety. No one really knows what he's going to be able to play. He's a small guy. So I don't see him even fitting at strong safety. If anything, he'd be a free safety, and McCourty's going to be there for a while. So it just kind of adds depth to the cornerback group. But I don't think he's going to stand out. But then they ended up getting Trey Jackson in the fourth round after they traded a pick to get that pick with Cleveland. And Trey Jackson was supposed to go in the second round, so they got him late. So that kind of like, if you swap those picks, then you'd kind of be okay with it. So that was kind of like one of those things where I was okay with it. And then other than that, all
I
night.
actually really like the Patriots' fourth round. I think Malcolm Brown was a really good. I know I jabbed at you a little bit, but I think Malcolm Brown was a really good pick for you guys. And your fourth round, Trey Jackson, and who are the other two guys? Do you have that right there?
Yeah, Shaq Mason and Trey Flowers.
Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers was another guy that I was actually looking at for the Giants to maybe take even in the second round. So I think that's a very solid. I mean, that round killed it. That's what kind of like you were saying. Belichick might miss in the second or third, but I think he killed it in the fourth too. So you guys are looking good also. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those rare drafts where throughout the entire draft for Belichick, you're just like, yeah, I could see that guy possibly starting next year. And it was a lot of edge rushers on the line, a lot of linebackers that can pass rush, which is like exactly what this team needs because of the shitty secondary we're going to have, and then offensive line depth. The offensive line.
We're not going to be getting coverage sacks next year.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and then with Trey Jackson and Shaq Mason, either one of them can be guards in the NFL if they pan out. So that's just huge. And then they get A.J. Derby in the 6th round, who's like basically this Gronk-esque tight end, but he's smaller than Gronk and he has blocking issues. Not
very Gronk.
Well, not like to the point where he's like Aaron Hernandez or Tim Wright type of tight end. Like he's a bigger guy, but he's not a freak like Gronk. Hence why he went in the 6th round.
He's like Gronkowski, but he's black and runs a 4.340.
I'm pretty sure he's white, isn't he?
No, I have no idea.
The point. Okay. He's like Gronk, but he's the exact opposite.
Right. And then the Patriots, I think their last pick, was it Xavier Dixon? Oh, I'm trying to remember now. They drafted somebody who, no, it wasn't Xavier Dixon, or maybe it was a undrafted free agent. There was someone that they got. I don't see any wide receivers on here, so it must have been that. That was a quarterback in college. And now and then he ended up transitioning to wide receiver, and they got him either late or undrafted free agent, which is like sounds a lot like Edelman. So that's kind of a little excitingness, but yeah, overall, I mean, as a Patriots fan, I think you have to be ecstatic from top to bottom of what Belichick did in this draft. All the important positions were reached, and I mean, there wasn't any. If you didn't get the first couple of cornerbacks, it was just like the biggest drop off ever. So I think they just went for the defensive, build up that front seven. And I mean,
best player available. I mean, you got to pick a little bit with need, but on the same page. As long as you can use. I mean, you guys did a good job of that. Like, you need your corners a lot, but hey, if there weren't any there, they may not be as big of a need, but you definitely filled up gaps in all the other spots. So.
Right, and I mean they took Geneo Grissom and Trey Flowers, so that's 2 edge rushers, and then Matthew Wells, a linebacker, and then they already extended Chandler Jones and Hightower and Jamie Collins, so you have Collins, Hightower, Mayo in the middle, and then with Malcolm Brown and Chandler Jones and Ninkovich on the ends, plus you added these new ends and some more linebacking depth. So I don't know. It's a lot more depth than what we've had in the past. So I like that, and we added depth to the offensive line. So you can't hate anything that he did.
The offensive and defensive line are the 2 most important parts of your game.
Mm-hmm.
You can't win without it. So always have extra.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how they play out.
Is it August yet?
What's that?
Is it August yet?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it actually got me really excited. Usually after the draft, I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. Like I get excited for the draft. Right, I get so excited for the draft, and then nothing really big happens to the Patriots. So I'm just like, all right, we'll just wait and see. But now I'm like, oh man, some actual new toys that I'm excited about. Like this could be awesome. Yeah, I don't really know what happened after the first pick with the Jets, I kind of just dropped off. Oh, they got Kevin Smith. That's right, which is one of the wide receivers I was hoping the Patriots would look at. So
That guy from Jay and Silent Bob?
yep, same guy. Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, he can run a 4.5. Can you believe it? Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I think Kevin Smith and then Leonard Williams are their two biggest picks. But we'll have to talk to Ryan next week and see what he thought about it.
Yeah, I really liked the Jets draft too. I thought Leonard Williams falling to them. I mean, so I know that they had a really good D lineman already, but the thing is they have 2-star D linemen and one guy that's good, like a solid guy. And I know they play a 3-4, but they can either put Leonard Williams in over their not superstar guy, and so now they have 3 superstar D linemen. I don't know how you block that. And then either that or they could just bring in, I mean, the NFL runs so many hybrid fronts now that you can bring in a 4th guy and just kind of, I mean, it doesn't have to be a solid 3-4-4-3 thing. You can just kind of play with who you have, and I think that that was a really good pick for them, and I really like the Devin Smith, too, pick. I had him in the first round in March. It wasn't a mock draft, but it was our whatever, what we would do thing.
Yeah.
And I had Smith going in the first round, actually, to the Patriots, so I thought that was a good pickup, too. The only other thing I'll say, not about any of the teams that we have, is I would just also like to comment that I think Atlanta had a really solid draft. I liked their running back they got in the 3rd round, Tevin Coleman. I liked the 1st-round pick, Vic Beasley. I told you guys how high I was on Vic Beasley, so I think they did a really good job this season too. And then I was going to say the Rams. I don't know what they're doing. That
They're
was
moving
just
to LA. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the Rams. I mean, you could argue the Bills or the Seahawks because they didn't have a 1st-round pick, and yeah, probably I would say the Bills probably had the worst draft or the Seahawks for that reason. But I don't know. For what the position they started in and what they ended up with, I think St. Louis could have done a lot better. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be surprised at all next year when the Rams are the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I was actually looking up. I forgot the Jets actually took Bryce Petty, too. So that's an interesting pick to sit behind Geno, because that's someone who can sit behind there while Geno sucks and then doesn't really have a whole lot of pressure since he was drafted in the 4th round. And then they traded and got Zach Stacy. So Stacy and Ridley will be their running backs next year, which is I think is a pretty good. If you put them in rotation, that wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Jets are on the upswing too. I mean, you guys, I don't know what to think of the AFC East next year because you can't possibly dethrone the Patriots now. I mean, it just, even as much as I would like to, I got to give them the division. But I mean, on the same page, the other 3 teams look really good right now. I don't really know what to expect. I mean, the Bills, I guess their draft kind of put them down a little bit, but before that, they got McCoy and stuff, and I don't know. I really like the moves they made other than that. Right, exactly. So I don't really know what to make of your guys' division next year. I mean,
yeah, it'll be. I don't think the Jets will. I think the Jets will finish last just because they don't have a quarterback. Even though they added wide receivers, and the big thing about defense too, like they got Leonard Williams, but right now Muhammad Wilkerson is pissed that they're not extending him and is talking about sitting out the season if he doesn't get an extension. So they're talking about trading him to get something for him before he leaves. So if they just end up trading Wilkerson, which looks like a high probability right now, and then getting Williams, you basically just made a lateral move. Like, Williams is a great pick, but he's just another Wilkerson, so what are you doing? You're not that huge edge you just gained, if that's gone, and then you still don't have a quarterback. So I'm not worried about the Jets at all. The Bills worry me only because Rex Ryan is going to be good until his inability to draft catches, and his ability to draft players with question concerns, thinking he's Belichick, and then the people with question concerns like Holmes and Braylon Edwards continue to just tear apart their team. Or even Wilkerson, he's doing it to the Jets right now, which was a Rex Ryan draft pick. So I think they'll be good for a little while, and then Miami will be good because they actually have a legit, not Tom Brady-esque, but above average quarterback.
Right.
So And they added some wide receivers for him to play with.
They have an adequate game manager.
Right.
Like, he's not going to go out and lose you games. He might
Right.
not carry you to a win, but he's not going to throw 4 picks in the first quarter.
Yeah, and they have a decent defense. So
Well, I mean, they just signed Ndamukong Suh. I think that's pretty huge. I think their defense is going to be pretty good next year. And then also, I think now that if Devontae Parker works out for the Dolphins, I think Tannehill might look a little bit better, more like on a Matt Ryan sort of level of quarterback. Now that he's got somebody to throw to, I didn't believe in the Mike Wallace in Miami experiment. So maybe Parker upgrades that, and maybe not. Maybe he's still just kind of a game manager. But either way, yeah, I agree for the most part.
yeah. All right. So did you guys see the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight?
I
this
did.
weekend?
It was basically what everyone expected. Also, apparently, Pacquiao tore his rotator cuff in like the 3rd round, and he's getting surgery.
He tore it beforehand, is what I heard, or he was hurt beforehand. And there's this whole controversy, actually, about how they're supposed to sign a waiver saying they're not injured before the fight so that they go through with it. But Pacquiao and his crew or whatever signed off, oh, no, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. But now, immediately after the fight, they're kind of using it as an excuse almost. And they're saying, oh, well, he was hurt beforehand. They wouldn't let him take his meds or whatever. And now it's kind of coming back on them, being like, well, wait a minute, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to fight if you're injured because no one wants to see that. So
Yeah.
It's kind of like Pacquiao getting his however much money it was just for showing up and getting his ass whipped. I mean, they were all over that on ESPN Radio.
That's the problem. Floyd Mayweather is not a fighter. Floyd Mayweather is a boxer. He has the best defense of any boxer that has ever lived, and he's very accurate at counterpunching, but that's what he does. He sits back, he plays defense, he lets people come to him, which Pacquiao did all night. Pacquiao just didn't throw enough punches. And Mayweather just waited for him, came in, either dodged his shots or blocked his shots, landed 1 or 2 counter punches, and then hugged him and jumped out like he always does. Mayweather's just...
I saw a good tweet afterwards that said Mayweather hugged Pacquiao in this fight more than my mother's ever hugged me in my life.
Yeah, no, it was more prevalent in like the first few rounds, definitely, because Pacquiao hadn't quite punched himself out yet. So like just to get out of those flurries, Mayweather would just grab on, and he was doing a lot of like hooking the arm type of deal, and Pacquiao trying to pull his arm out and shit. Which, I mean, happens in every boxing match. That's what happens when it's not the UFC, and you can do that, and the guy's not going to judo throw you and put you on your back.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know, but it was one of those things where I kind of knew, or I felt like I knew what was going to happen. I figured it was going to go 12 rounds. I figured Mayweather would win in a decision because that's just how he fights. But it still felt like, this is probably the last relevant boxing match that will ever happen until Mayweather-Pacquiao 2, if Floyd has the balls to do it. So I felt like I had to go watch it.
Yeah, before I say my piece on that, Josh, my favorite Twitter thing was that they were saying that Pacquiao or Mayweather forgot that he was supposed to hug his wife and beat up Pacquiao.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty bad, but I thought that was funny. Anyway, as for my comments on the boxing, I ended up being busy that night, and I didn't really want to spend $100 to watch the fight, so I didn't watch it. And so they were talking all about this fight being kind of like, the resurrection of boxing. All of a sudden, it's going to hopefully get people interested in it again. And then it was a total dud, and nobody really cared. No one really wants to watch anymore. And I still stand by exactly how I did before. Honestly, if it was a big fight like that, it might be fun to get a group of buddies together, maybe bet on it, and just have a couple beers, watch the fight. Yeah, maybe that'd be fun, but it's nothing that's going to get me to go, whoa, guys, hold on, don't forget, Saturday night. And I don't think...
The problem that boxing has... Well, there's a lot of problems that boxing has. But one of the biggest problems is that your premier talent, your undefeated undisputed champion, is the most boring fucking fighter in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, you know what I mean? He doesn't even really talk trash. He doesn't do anything. He just shows up and plays defense and collects a paycheck and then goes home and smacks around his wife and kids. He's the worst fucking box, and apparently his whole crew is garbage too. Like, I was listening to I don't know if you guys know or saw or heard about this, but so Jimmy Kimmel was somehow in Manny Pacquiao's entourage, which was fucking hysterical. But Kimmel was on Bill Simmons' podcast, and I listened to a little bit of that today. And Kimmel was saying how everyone at the MGM, like all the security guards, all the staff, hate Mayweather, and they hate his camp because they're just all douchebags. But they all love Pacquiao because Pacquiao's just like having fun the whole time, and Mayweather's just all about business, all about money, his way or the highway. He's just insufferable. You don't have the charismatic boxers that you used to have. I mean, love him or hate him, Tyson made you watch. You know, same thing with Ali, Liston, Holyfield. You don't have those guys anymore. You don't have any. You know, it's as much as boxing is a sport, it's still entertainment, and you don't have any entertaining elite fighters anymore. Or the UFC has all of them.
Yeah, as someone who was never a fan of the UFC or boxing my entire life until basically college, you know, I've seen a boxing match before and I've seen a UFC match, and there's just like no competition in my head. Like, it's not even close for me. It's just like you said about Mayweather. I mean, undefeated champion who can't knock anybody out because he doesn't want to. That's not his style, and so he's boring as shit to watch.
And he doesn't fight.
Yeah, you don't actually have like good competition in any other weight class either. Yeah. So that hurts you. I mean, if you had two, 230-pound behemoths that knocked each other out like crazy going at it every weekend, then people would watch it. But when you're premier talent or welterweights whose main style is defense and hugging, I mean, no one in America is going to watch that. Maybe in Europe, but no one in America is going to watch that. Yeah, and like you were saying too, they don't. Even having a bad boy in boxing would help them. Just someone who talks trash constantly would help them out. And,
Muhammad Ali is the perfect example.
Right.
Of that. That man talks smack better than anybody that's ever lived.
Right.
And he backed it up.
And Mayweather, you'd think would be the bad guy, considering he's beat his girlfriend in 7 different instances, right, and served time for it. But really, other than that, like out of the ring, he's sort of the bad guy. But for some reason, people still like him enough in the ring. And even then, like he got tons of boos, but it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't the same as like when you hear people like boo Ronda Rousey for something. It just feels different than when people boo Mayweather. I don't know.
Anyone who boos Ronda Rousey is a communist.
He is a monster.
I cannot wait for her next fight. If I ever buy a UFC pay-per-view instead of just watching it illegally online, it'll be Rousey's next fight.
Oh, yeah.
I love her.
The only thing I don't like about buying her fight, though, is it's over in under 2 minutes, so you're not really getting your money worth.
The upside is there's usually like 8 fights on the undercard, so you just got to watch the whole friggin' thing to get your money's worth.
That's true.
Yeah, hell, her last 3 fights, I think, total time is like less than 90 seconds.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I'll admit I have watched a few of those without paying. So.
Oh, yeah. I've never paid for a UFC fight in my life.
Yeah, and on that, I mean, UFC, I think what Dana White did is, I mean, he literally took all the exciting parts about boxing and then created a culture. I mean, boxing always had that culture of, like, kids on the streets trying to make their way through. Mm-hmm. And Dana White took all of those kids and was just like, hey, look at UFC. And they're like, holy shit, that's way more fun than boxing. So now all those people are coming to UFC and you have all that talent. And that's the biggest thing. If you can get talent in all these other weight categories, I mean, they're even adding more women's categories. So it's just this huge growing enterprise that's just overtaking boxing and will in the future.
Because, MMA, prominent MMA leagues, you've got Strikeforce, you have Pride out in Japan, but Dana White is a brilliant promoter. and he got some excellent, excellent fighters very early in the UFC that made it what it is today. You know, guys like Royce Gracie, who were their fights were like must-watch TV, and he's done a very good job of just continually, you know, he never settles. He always wants the UFC to have the best talent, have the biggest fights, because that's the problem with boxing is there is no unified governing body, and you know, there's like 4 different friggin' world boxing organizations or whatever you want to call them, whereas the UFC has now fully established itself as the top tier. You know, like, people don't really take you seriously as an MMA fighter if you're not fighting in the UFC at this point. Like, yeah, you might be a champion, but they're like, nah, but who have you fought? Whereas, you know, so, and with that structure, you can't duck fights the way Mayweather did. You know, Mayweather kind of got to handpick most of his opponents. And the UFC, if you're the champ, you fight the #1 contender. Like, yeah, there are some terms. You get to dictate some terms. You get to figure out how much money you have. But at some point, you either fight or you vacate the title and 2 people fight for it. You know, it just kind of forces their hands and you get better matchups consistently. And even if it's 2 guys you've never heard of, chances are it's going to be more exciting than the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point with the boxing not having like an established organization where they have 4 different ones. So the way I look at it is that UFC is its own established thing. Dana White is promoting for UFC, where all these other boxing agencies, they're not promoting for boxing, they're promoting for themselves so they can make their own money. And that, I think that part, that'll kind of tear apart that organizational thing. I mean, if you have 4 different companies or whatever you want to call them, you know, fighting against.
Well, I don't even know how it actually works anymore, because Floyd went into the fight holding 2 different welterweight world championships, and then Pacquiao also had one. What the fuck are we doing here?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that fight was for the unified welterweight championship. What the fuck are you unifying? Right. No one even knows what these organizations are. With the UFC, it's the UFC. And sure, people hold Strikeforce championships or Pride championships, but, you know, the UFC has dominated for so long that now those are seen as, like, the minor leagues. Like, people are fighting in there trying to get a UFC contract.
Right. Yeah, I think the other thing I was thinking of was the other brilliant promotional idea with Dana White was the reality show, the UFC.
Yeah.
Trying, because then you pull a target audience of young people in who are obsessed with reality TV shows. Not only you tie them in, but then you have guys who are literally fighting for a career, while literally fighting, not just like fighting another thing. They're beating the shit out of each other. They're willing to like die to get themselves into this. It's like, how can you create a better TV than that? And then those guys build your structure for years to come through continuous fighting in the UFC, and they made a name for themselves on live television through a 3, 4, 5 month show where you get to connect with them, and then now they establish themselves in the UFC and then build that fan base even more with people knowing who they are. It was like, it's ingenious.
And so many of those guys have gone on to have successful UFC careers. Forrest Griffin, you know, guys like that. Even the ones who, I don't remember what season it was, but it was one of like the early seasons. It might have been season #1, where the 2 finalists were both like such fan favorites, and it was such a good fight, and they were such good fighters that really good job of capitalizing on that and getting them like fights immediately.
Oh, I think we're having connectivity difficulties.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't sure if it was me or who or what that was.
I thought it was me too. I was like, what's going on?
I just kept talking in case it was working, but I don't actually know.
Yeah, I'm not sure we got any of the end of that. I'm sure it was great though, Greg. I'm sure.
The next fight I'm looking forward to, which I'm actually not going to be able to see, Sean. It's the weekend of the Boston show down here. It's that Saturday night. Conor McGregor gets his title shot against Jose Aldo. I don't know if you guys have heard of McGregor at all yet. That dude's
he's
fucking animal.
Yeah, I love him because he's trash talking like hell, but in a way where he's like, I'm trash talking and I'm gonna be a dick and I'm gonna back it up, which is like what you love to hear.
Right, because if you listen to interviews and stuff with him, he's like, people call it trash talk, but I'm not talking trash. I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
He believes it 100%. He's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, plus he's an Irishman,
press
so you
conference?
have to love that. What's that?
The UFC promo in Dublin when he grabbed all those belt off the table.
No.
He was like talking because obviously it's in Dublin. Everyone's going crazy. He didn't even have to talk, and then he just stands up, reaches across the podium like around Dana White, grabs all those belts, and just holds it up over his head like, "Yeah, come and get it, come and get it." White literally had to stand between them to keep Aldo from like punching him in the face.
That's
I
awesome.
can't wait.
That is awesome.
You don't have any of that in boxing.
What weekend is that?
It's July 11th, Saturday, July 11th.
I'm definitely gonna have to put that in my calendar.
Yeah.
There have been a few fights lately where with UFC I've been like, I really, really want to buy that fight just because they're so good. They're so worth it.
So that's why I wish like we lived close enough that like we could just be like, all right, I'll buy the pay-per-view. We'll get 3-4 people. Everyone throw in $10.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
Oh yeah.
They're like $70 or whatever, and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to pay that to sit alone in my apartment and watch each other up.
Yeah, I completely agree. Maybe I'll do that down here instead.
Yeah, maybe Josh and I'll do that. Yeah.
Hell, for Rousey's fight, I'll come up.
I'm in.
Yeah, so I think we've beat the boxing is shit head on the head is shit. Nail on the head. There we go.
All I really have to say with hockey is go Tampa, fuck the Habs. If Tampa Bay sweeps this series, I will be just as happy as if the Bruins were still in the playoffs.
That sounds good, man.
And I wish Ryan was here to help me with the Rangers, but we're down 2-1 right now. I haven't really seen it because all the other sports going on, and I was actually pretty busy too this weekend. So, yeah, I hope we come back tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. Let's just go to baseball. We can finish there. So the Red Sox were swept over the weekend by the Yankees.
Suck a dick, Sean.
Yeah, and they're basically. So it was the first two games were the first two like solid pitch performances the Red Sox have had like in a month, and then for some reason the Yankees decided they were going to pitch well too, and the Red Sox lineup decided they were just going to stop hitting all of a sudden. So it was kind of a combination.
Like the perfect storm of suck. Yeah,
it was like literally the most frustrating games ever to watch because you were so used. I mean, the most frustrating part of this year to the date has been watching the Red Sox go up 5 or 6-0 on a team and then have the starting pitcher just blow up and then end up losing the game. That's like literally one of the most frustrating things ever. Or what's been frustrating also lately is being down 5-0 in the first period, the first inning, because your starting pitcher sucks so much. So those two things combined have been very frustrating. But then on top of that, to finally see like Wade Miley pitch a good game and have a below 59 ERA, and then see the Red Sox lineup, who have been lighting it up, just be like, nah, we're cool. We're only gonna score 3 runs tonight because that's just who we are now. And so now basically the entire lineup is just anytime there's anyone in scoring position, they just refuse to even make a hit. And it is the most frustrating thing I have ever witnessed since basically last year when just the entire team didn't do anything. But
it's almost worse though because last year they were just awful.
Right.
Like this year they have a lineup and we've seen them put up stupid numbers, but they just don't do it consistently.
Yeah. And I just don't want it to be one of those seasons where every time we score a bunch of runs, our starting pitcher sucks. And every time our starting pitcher is good, our lineup can't score any runs. Like, I can just envision that that's the type of year we have, where it's just nothing goes right. Like the team just can't win no matter what they do. Or like we finally have one after like 5 straight losses. Like finally we're gonna win by one, and then like Koji like blows his first save of the year. Like that's the way the season's gonna go. Like I can already feel it.
That's true Red Sox pessimism speaking right there, by the way.
Yeah, and it's only been 2 years since our last World Series. It's already that's how quickly it creeps back. It's just
Well,
like
let's
ingrained in
be
you.
honest. The World Series was the anomaly. Like, they
Right.
sucked, and then they won a World Series, and then they went right back to sucking.
Yeah,
So-
if they come in last in the AL East this year, it'll be 3 out of the last 4 years they came in last, and the 1 year they didn't, they won the World Series. So
Right.
I mean,
and it
what do
happened
you-
to be the 1 year, of course, that I lived in Boston. That was
Right.
fun.
Yeah,
Well-
you son of a bitch.
Yeah, right. Come on. Yeah, no.
All the good stuff
Uh,
gets wasted on you, Hardy.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't good for me, so we were all pretty. But
Oh, I was still happy.
Yeah, could you
Yeah,
move back to Boston, please?
Actually, yeah, I miss drinking there.
yeah, how about no? But
Get your PhD. Don't be a bitch.
I've got a pretty sweet job already. I don't need the PhD.
All right.
But after your little Red Sox rant, I'll just go ahead and say I'm right now. I'm not optimistic about the Yankees. I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm surprised. I'm glad we're hitting a lot better than I thought we would be. The pitching question has been pretty much answered. We're doing well. Defensively, we've allowed the second least amount of runs in the AL East, only to the Rays, but only by 1 run, 96-95. We're up there with runs scored. I'm pretty surprised with that. And again, like I said, the pitching is so far. I wouldn't say it's been a surprise, but it's been an answered question, if that makes any sense. So going into the year, I was thinking that we had a shot at good pitching, but it really depended on a lot of things. And so far, even without Tanaka, we've done pretty well, and I'm pretty happy about that. Pineda's still killing it tonight. But I am slightly concerned that because of the age of our roster, that a lot of these older players, like A-Rod is still hitting pretty well. He hit his 660th home run over the weekend to tie, I can't remember who it was. I'm not that big of a baseball fanatic, obviously. But either way, for 4th place in the all-time home run list. And I'm worried that going later into the year, guys like A-Rod and Teixeira are going to cool way down because they're old. And I feel like, yeah, they're good players, but it's going
That's
to
what steroids are for.
Yeah, well, I guess A-Rod, could get back on the juice, but either way, I'm concerned that this won't last through the whole season. No, there's no way he does that. That would be the stupidest move you could possibly make as A-Rod right
What do you
now.
mean? He's on it right now. He's never been caught. Why would he ever? He's never failed a drug test. Why would he stop ever using?
Just because he's not using HGH or the other shit they test for doesn't mean he's not juicing.
Yeah, no,
It
he's
also doesn't
definitely
mean that other people aren't guilty of the same thing.
not even right. Not even as like a Red Sox fan. Like anyone. He's obviously juicing just because he's literally never been caught before in a test because they can't. They had to go through they basically had to break the law inspecting people and interrogating people to catch him. So there's no way he's not. They probably already tested him 5 times this year, and he passed all of them while while getting his blood drawn, and the other arm was a steroid needle, and they were just and he still passed it.
I guess that's a fair point, but
I'm not even concerned if I was a Yankees fan with the age thing. My biggest thing is that Teixeira's on pace to hit 50 home runs. So just law of averages, he's not gonna hit 50 home runs, so he's gonna cool down. And A-Rod's about that, so he's not gonna hit 50 home runs. Although maybe he probably won't. There's no way he does. I was thinking there's no way he does within. I was thinking there's no way he hits 50 home runs because then that would alarm people too much. But then I was like, wait, he's A-Rod. He would just love to shove that, hit 60 home runs the year after, and just be like, yeah, I'm not juicing. And just stare in Rob Manfred's eyes and call up Bud Selig just for fun in the middle of the interview and just be like, catch me, bitch, and just hang up. The A-Rod doing shit like that. So maybe he will hit 60 home runs.
You know what? I would like A-Rod a lot more if he did that.
Yeah, A-Rod actually didn't get that many boos at Fenway, and I think the whole thing is because the Yankees, like not the fans, but the Yankees front office absolutely hate A-Rod. So so that actually kind of, I don't like him, but it makes me like root for him a little bit.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, basically.
You know what I mean? Because he's turned the front office against him, it's like, all right, you're kind of cool for now.
Yeah, he's like a pesky mosquito that they keep swatting at and missing, and I just keep rooting for that mosquito to finally land and suck all the money out of them.
That's fine with me as long as that pesky mosquito hits the game-winning home run like that consistently.
Right, which is why I don't root for him. It's just the idea that they now have to pay him $6 million.
Right.
I just love that. Yeah, and I mean it's not like the Yankees are going to win the World Series, so that's why it doesn't really concern me all that much. But
not that I think they will, but I hope they do even more now, so that we can go back and have this on tape.
I'm pretty confident that would be ridiculous if they won the World Series. Literally, Teixeira and A-Rod would have to hit like 50 home runs. And then all of this, yeah, and then all of baseball would be like, what the fuck is going on? Since no one's done that in forever.
Especially with the teams out west.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
No, I didn't. I wasn't saying it is happening. I was just. I'm happy if we make the playoffs, to be honest, this year.
I'd call that a successful year for the Yanks too. Hell, at this point, I'd call it a successful year for the Red Sox. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's about that. Somehow Tampa Bay is still doing really well. Basically, their pitching has just been absolutely phenomenal. They're back to the Rays of old.
Nothing on them right now.
Yeah, it won't stay that way.
Probably not.
I think the biggest thing with the Red Sox right now that I want to see is I'd like to see Joe Kelly and Justin Masterson move to the bullpen and have Kelly be a 7th or 8th guy and then Masterson be a long reliever. And then we can bring up Eduardo Rodriguez and Brian Johnson, the two young guys. Because, I mean, they can't do worse than how they're doing right now. And then maybe one of them shows you something and you can trade him for Hamels or something, or Cueto. And then you actually have a chance, but... Yep. So, yeah. So the Rays are still somehow in second place. And the Orioles are right behind. Blue Jays, Red Sox in last. And it's pretty crazy considering all the changes that were made to all these different teams this year. And they're all within 4 games of each other still.
Yeah, this should be a fun division race.
I mean, even though, that's pretty much what everyone thought, though, right? Going into the year, we were all, this is a really hard division to pick. I'm not surprised that it's this close still. I wouldn't be surprised if it's this close going into, like, August. We'll see, obviously, but I don't expect it to change too dramatically.
And I think the thing I like about it, too, is it's not like this division is just so bad. It's going to be like whoever wins the AL East gets in, and then everyone else doesn't even make a wild card. Like, after the first, it's like the first couple of division, I don't know, the first couple of division leaders in the AL, right? It's like the Tigers and the Astros. And then after that, it's basically anyone's game for the other 2 wild card spots. So, I mean, and the Royals. The Royals have the other wild card spot. Yeah, they're at 16-9, but so far it's just really, really close in the entire AL. So it's like all you have to do is one team goes on a losing streak and one team goes on a winning streak, and you completely swap it again. So I think that's what I like about it too. That I have to keep reminding myself, even though they look like there's no way they're going to make the playoffs, like in the AL right now, there's a really good chance they get at least a second wild card spot. So.
Yeah, also, your point about streaks in baseball. Yeah, I mean, realistically, what was it, the first week? I know the overreactions or whatever, and the Yankees sucked, and the Red Sox were great, and then now it's all of a sudden the opposite. It's like, I mean, that's just how week to week it is in baseball, and I don't really take it too seriously what place you're in, how you're doing overall, really until we hit the All-Star break. That's where I kind of finally put an assessment on, okay, are we actually going to have a chance here? Or, is this just a streaky thing? Is this just, so it's still too early, in my opinion, to really separate anybody, even the big teams. I don't know. I don't take too much into it yet.
Yeah, usually about now is teams are settling into who they're going to be,
Right.
more than what their record are, because you still haven't played enough teams where records are all that important in the scheme of things. But you can start getting a gauge on certain players. Like, I mean, the Red Sox pitching staff. That pitching staff is not going to get much better. I mean, that's basically who they are now. You've seen some bright spots out of Porcello, so you can see that he could maybe do something. And you've seen some bright spots out of Buchholz, but Buchholz is still the guy you thought he is. Porcello is about the guy you thought he is. And at this time, you can basically give up on Miley and Kelly and Masterson and just see that, hey, they're guys that they're going to go out and pitch 6 innings, 3 earned runs, so they're going to go out and pitch 5 innings, 7 earned runs. They're very inconsistent. You can basically see how the bullpen's going to be, and you can, for the most part, see how the offense is going to be, unless they start hitting and runners scoring. Unless they start hitting with runners in scoring position, they're going to be a team that doesn't get on base a lot, but has home run power and can bat runs when it can get runs on the board really quickly, but you never know when it's going to happen. And I think that those things about each team, that's probably going to stay consistent throughout the year, barring call-ups or injuries and stuff like that. So yeah. I mean, with the Yankees, their bullpen's obviously going to be very good for the rest of the season, unless there's an injury to Miller or Betances. And then the pitching staff might see a little bit of regression because they're pitching at an unbelievable to what they were supposed to coming into the year. But, I mean, for most of the pitchers, they're going to stay roughly about where they are now. And then the lineup, I don't even know what's going on with the lineup. I feel like it has to regress just based on the age of the lineup.
Well, that's why I said that was my biggest concern, really, barring injuries, of course, is that especially with their age, I think they would probably regress anyway, because I agree, I don't see Teixeira or A-Rod hitting 50 home runs. But on top of that, just because they're old, the wear and tear of a long season, I can just see naturally regressing despite whatever statistical streak and anomaly they're having right now, whatever. That's my biggest concern, basically.
Mm-hmm. But I think also, like we were saying before, they're basically in the spots that they're going to be in throughout the year, which is really close. And even though it's early on the year, you don't know who they're going to be. You know at least the overall scheme of how the teams are looking, and through the first month, and they all have their good parts and they all have their bad parts, but none of them are going to run away with the division unless something crazy happens. So at least to that point, you don't have to wait. I don't think you have to wait till the All-Star break to make the assumptions with the bigger ideas that are going on with the team. But yeah, so that's our MLB report. As exciting as it was, we should just end it. We should just end it on the NFL or the UFC with fighting and blood. So that's a little bit more exciting.
Or it could be like ESPN and just keep saying that we have one more NFL segment coming up, but after this.
Yeah, right.
Fucking ESPN.
All right.
I got nothing else.
I don't have Ryan to say goodbye, Ryan, so I'll just say goodbye instead.
Yeah, he says it anyway.
You did last time when you weren't here.
Oh, you remembered? Damn it.
Yeah, he remembered. Yeah. All right. So next week, hopefully, there's more things in the news to talk about. We'll have Ryan with his draft opinion on how the Jets did. and maybe we can introduce some new ideas into the show that isn't news related and is more argumentative, which is always fun because who doesn't like to argue and yell at each other? All right, so see you guys next week. Bye.